Welcome back, Axis and Allies players, straight from the nest. It's Wars of the World, Series 3, the Napoleonic Wars. NATO's going to lead us through this introduction and through all of our scenarios. Take it away, NATO, and show us how it's done.
Hello everybody, this is Nato at the Nest, and welcome to a new scenario, a new war, and a new century. The first half of the 1803 turn of the Napoleonic Wars. Now, right now only England and France are at war, so the turn is going to be fairly quick. So it starts off with England. England bought a frigate, purchased a technology dice to start researching the infantry square, and then bought some troops to put North America and some in the home island. For combat, it took its fleet in the English Channel and came down and attacked the French frigate off of Bordeaux, and it was 1-for-1. Sunk the French frigate, but lost a frigate themselves. And then it brought the frigate it had off of Nova Scotia and the transport across. And that was it for the British. Not capable of landing on the continent yet. They only had one transport, and so 2 units is not enough to to last more than a turn or two against all those French units. So England struck the only way it could through its navy, and that was the only French frigate in range. The other French frigate was in the Gulf of Mexico, and then the other one in the Mediterranean off of Marseille. And next in the turn order was Austria, and they just built up their army and moved their troops from Hungary and Slovakia and to reinforce Austria proper and the Sudetenland, and then just bought 2 more infantry. Spain bought 3 frigates and a cavalry, and this frigate was off Panama and Central America, and it brought it over to consolidate with that fleet there, and then brought its frigate that it had in Zone 80 over to consolidate with the fleet in the Strait of Gibraltar. And that was it for Spain. Russia can't buy anything yet, and so all it did was just started moving all of its forces west to get ready for when it does go to war with France. Prussia, same thing as Austria, just bought some more troops and just reinforced Berlin and Stettin. Sweden bought a transport, and that was all their money. Took all their money to buy 1 transport, and that's all they did. France started their research on French cannon, give them that first strike ability. England rolled a 6, and France rolled a 5, so good rolls on the tech roll. And England needs 72 points to get the infantry squares. France needs 36 or 37 to get the French cannon, so good rolls on both of them. Rolling a six-sided dice, so getting a 5 and a 6 is good rolls for that. Let's see, France bought another frigate, and then just loaded up on ground troops, and France's combat action is they invaded Rome, and so now Rome is under siege. And for those history buffs out there, I know historically Napoleon didn't actually fight for Italy. He was at this stage in the Napoleonic Wars. He was after 1805. Yeah, after the 1805 campaign, when he pretty much wiped the floor with Austria and Russia. He pretty much took the rest of Italy unopposed and was crowned King of Italy unopposed. So I am taking some liberties with historical fact for gameplay purposes, like giving Sweden more territory than it actually had historically. But just for gameplay purposes, I'm taking some liberties with historical fact. So let's see, and then France moved this frigate that was in the Gulf of Mexico over to the Caribbean. Try to kind of consolidate its fleet. Portugal just bought another infantry. They're not in the war yet. And America purchased the Louisiana Territory from France. Now, some people might be wondering why would France give up those 3 territories that combined equal 7 IPP? Why would France just give that up? The two reasons. The less important reason is, those territories are only worth 7 IPP, but they're being sold for 28. So I know in the short term that's a gain. In the long term it's a loss. But the other more important reason of why it would be a good idea for the French player to sell those territories is England has a factory in Ottawa, so it can reinforce continuously, whereas the only way France can get troops there is by transport, and that's assuming they can fight their way through the British Navy. So, and even if they could get their way through the British Navy, the British can reinforce much quicker than the French can due to that British factory there. So it's not an if, but a when France would lose those territories to England. So if France kept those territories, they'd essentially just be giving them to England and boosting English production. By selling those territories to America, it keeps those territories out of British hands. So it hurts French production, but it's better than giving it to the British, who they're at war with for the entirety of this scenario. So that's the main reason why it's a good idea for France to sell those territories to America, because it keeps them out of British hands. Because there's no way France can hold those territories for long against Britain. So France opted to sell the territories to America, and America, for obvious reasons, accepted and bought those territories from France. And now, so America, in terms of square mileage, has more than doubled in size. So America definitely took that opportunity up, and now the only parts of the American homeland that they don't have right now is Florida and Texas on this side. You know, obviously, West Coast is a different story because that's all controlled by Spain, and I forgot to put the roundels there, but those two territories are owned by England. Canada is obviously owned by England, and Alaska is owned by Russia. So and then Italy just bought an infantry and a militia to try to fight back against France. And that was a turn. Pretty quick. Next turn, Spain enters the war on France's side. So that's going to be a big game changer. England's going to be fighting 2-1, and the enemy ships arrayed against the British Navy will have just doubled. So England is unfortunately going to have to be spending most of its money on ships to fight France and Spain. And British strategy, I totally forgot about that. British strategy right now, well, for the first turn, since it was only fighting France, was mostly, you know, just ships, because that's the only way you can fight back against France right now. Next turn, seeing how then France, its strategy is to concentrate mostly on ground forces, because that's where its main fight's going to be. England's victory goals is to take Chicago and Washington once the Americans get involved, and then to take all the territories in the Iberian Peninsula, so all the Spanish home territories, including Gibraltar. That's its objectives. France's objectives, almost a mirror of the British. France's objectives is to control the Iberian Peninsula and Moscow. And so France's strategy was, since how it's all land-based, France is only going to devote a portion of its income to ships and spend most of it on the army, because all of its objectives are land-based, and also just the sheer number of enemies France is going to be facing, and that they're all land enemies. You know, Austria, Prussia, Russia. You know, they're all mainland continental power, so it needs ground forces more than it needs troops. And then next turn, you know, next turn Spain's entering, so that will change the strategy for next turn. So we'll see you then at the second half of 1803, and see how Spain entering the conflict changes things. We'll see you then. Hello everybody, this is Nato at the Nest with the second half of 1803 and the Napoleonic Wars. And for now, the fighting continues to be mostly contained to the oceans. England continues research on infantry squares. Rolled a 4. So now they're at 66. I need 66 more points. And then England spent all of its money on ships, because it's now facing France and Spain. consolidated its transports, brought both of its transports to 24 for a future landing, whenever that might be. Austria continued building up. Spain bought a cannon and then 3 frigates, and then the Spanish fleet engaged a British fleet off the coast of Spain and was able to defeat it. Sunk 3 British frigates at the cost of two of their own. And Russia continued moving their stuff west for when they can finally get in on it. Prussia built up its forces again, getting ready for their involvement. Sweden bought another transport so it can bring its army across the Baltic Sea when they get involved. France continued its research into cannon. They rolled a 2, fortunately, so they are at 29. They need 29 more points. Portugal brought some of its army from South America over, landed it in the home country, and bought infantry and a militia, getting ready for when Spain invades. America didn't do anything, can't produce anything, and all of its ships and armies where it needs to be. And Italy bought an infantry to reinforce Rome as the siege of capital continues. So now that Spain is officially in the war, strategies have shifted for the 3 nations that currently at war: England, France, and Spain. England, aside from money that it put in for research, England has been forced to spend every single dime it has on ships in order to counter French and Spanish ship production, because as you saw in the last scenario, control of the Atlantic is a very, very important thing. So that's probably going to be England's strategy for the foreseeable future, is just pump out as many ships as it can to try to gain naval dominance over France and Spain. One, to keep the home islands free from invasion, and 2, England, 8 out of 10 of England's victory points are all in Spain, so in order to land troops in Spain, it's going to need naval, at the very least, naval superiority. Naval dominance will help, would be preferable, but so 8 out of 10 of England's points are all wrapped up in Spain, so it can't land troops until the waterways between England and Spain are clear, and the only way that's going to happen is non-stop ship production to try to counter the Spanish and French Navy, and that's going to be a tall order, seeing how England is outnumbered 2-1 right now in terms of nations it's at war with. Historically, England has never won a war without a strong continental power in it, and England is lacking that currently. It'll get it, but that's several turns down the road, so England definitely has an uphill battle right now. So strategy for France and Spain. Spain has allied itself with France, so their strategy is going to be kind of similar to what they did last scenario with American Revolution. France is they're going to divide the zones of responsibility. So France is just going to worry about the land war. So France is going to put all of its production towards ground troops in fighting the land war. And Spain is going to be responsible for the naval conflict. So Spain is going to put all of its money towards ships. So that frees France up to fight the the three continental powers that it's going to be at war with soon. It frees France up to fight Austria, Prussia, and Russia, and Sweden. And Spain, taking sole duty for the naval war, will keep England tied up and keep England out of France's back door. And if France can take Rome and take Italy before Austria and Russia and Sweden enter the war, that'll allow France to it'll keep France fighting a one-front war and allow France to throw the majority of its weight at Austria. If Italy's out of the picture, plus the extra money it'll get from that, and France can just concentrate on Austria with a sledgehammer blow and knock out Austria before Prussia enters, then France will be sitting pretty good for winning the land war and facing and holding off Russia. So that's a basic strategy for France and Spain. France is just going to fight the land war while Spain keeps England off their back, and England will have no choice but to just put everything it has into ships to counter Spain, because England's production is 22, Spain's is 34, so that means every turn Spain can produce one more frigate than England can. And that in a roundabout way and slash inadvertently, that helps out America, because America in 1812 is going to go to war with England, and America can't start producing anything till 1810. So Spain putting so much pressure on England means England isn't spending any money in Canada and isn't spending any money on troops. So that means the British presence in Canada is going to be significantly weaker, which is going to help out the Americans. So England's just got to hold on until its allies on the continent can get their crap together and get in the war and take some of the pressure off of England. Although with France and Spain, dividing up their zones of responsibility, Austria and Russia and Sweden entering the war really isn't going to take any pressure off of England, because France is going to keep those three powers pretty busy and not pull a single Spanish unit away from the fight. So we'll see. England's in a tough spot right now. We'll see if they can crawl over that hurdle. And so we'll come back next turn with a new year, 1804, and see what England can do. See you then.
Hey, thanks for watching Axis and Allies players. Don't forget to hit a squat on that like button. If you'd like to see more videos just like this, go ahead and click on our subscribe button. You can view all of our other videos on our playlists right here on Viper and NATO, straight from the nest, coming at you from historical board games, Z-Man Games, Parker Brothers, Hasbro, and Wizards of the Coast. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you on the next round.